All right, welcome everyone. Today is the 6th of September, 2023, and this is the cluster API or the SIG cloud provider API network server, API server network proxy subproject. That's a real mouthful. All right. This is a subproject of Kubernetes SIGs, and as such, we follow their meeting guidance, which basically means please treat everyone as you would expect to be treated, and raise your hand if you'd like to be called on. Although there's only 3 of us, so I don't think it's that big a deal. All right. So there's one item that I put on the agenda that I just wanted to talk about, and this came up on the review for the PR that I put up. Basically, which release branch naming do we want to use? Joseph, I saw your comment there, and I think I tend to agree with you. Like, I would probably keep the release naming the same as whatever the project is, but I drafted off of what Client Go did, so I just kind of copied what their guidance is. I don't know, like Joe, Imran, do you guys, or sorry, Joseph, Imran, do you guys have thoughts?
I guess I can take a turn, and then I know Imran also just gave a review, like just a few minutes before the meeting. So I'm curious his thoughts. Besides what I said, I sort of thought about it later, and I wondered if Client Go might have tighter release automation that's a little more coupled with the rest of Kubernetes. So if that's in the cards for the future for connectivity proxy, then that could be a reason to go that way. But while it's manual, I sort of like the consistency of matching the release tags. Also, I thought about it, it's always going to be easier to go forward and like harder to go backward, harder or impossible to go backward. So it's a little bit more conservative approach to stick with release -0 for now. Imran, what do you think?
So I don't have a preference of adding that release prefix, but I had a question whether it should match the Kubernetes version, the name of the branch, or it should match the tag of the on the API server network proxy side. So release 1.99 or release 0.99. So that was my question, but having a release prefix is okay for me. I would be on that side of having.
Okay, so it sounds like we're all in agreement about using the using the same name as the release as the tag we use. Like I'm good with that too. I don't know. And welcome, David. I just saw you come in. We're talking about the release branch naming for how we're going to work the project. And we were kind of discussing, we were drafting off kind of Client Go's tagging and branching scheme. But one thing that Client Go does is they keep the minor version of the Kubernetes, and they use 0 as the major version for their library. But when they branch, they use like release dash and then the major number from the Kubernetes. So we were kind of going back and forth. Do we want to do it Client Go style where we'd say release dash 1.99, for example, if 1.99 was the latest Kubernetes release? Or do we want to stick with our tag, which would be 0.99, and just call it release dash 0.99? And welcome, Walter. Just saw you coming through. We're kind of going back and forth about just resolving this last issue with the release naming here.
Yeah, there might be some benefit to being somewhat consistent with Q if there's some shared tooling, but the reason that we have the different branches is just to provide service. It doesn't really matter what they're named.
Cool. Thank you for that. I don't know if you have any opinion, but it sounds like we'll just go with release dash and then the tag from the API server network proxy. So it'll be like release dash 0.99 or something. Are there any objections to doing it that way? All right, cool. I will update that PR and post it later today then.
Sorry.
Oh,
Just quickly, did we, I see both a 0 and a 1 suggestion. Did we, okay, we're decided on 0, we're not going to, okay.
right. We're going to follow the tag that we'll follow the branch. In the branch name, we will use the name of the tag that we created in the API server network proxy repo. So it'll be like release dash 0.99 instead of using the Kubernetes major version in the release branch name. Okay, well, that was the only topic that I had, and we have the kind of GA requirements draft as a kind of another backlog item. Does anybody else have topics they'd like to bring up today? Okay, might be kind of a late day. Do we want to look into the requirements draft, or has there been any motion here? I see a thumbs up from Walter, so I'll open it up here. So it looks like we still have some discussion going on here. I don't know, Walter or Joseph, did either of you guys have updates you wanted to give for this?
I can go first. So I confess I still haven't done the work I promised a while back to update to the latest kept template. But I will say, though, that we have a contributor, I guess, Tall Claire, who's a teammate of Walter's and mine. And he's back from leave, and he opened a fairly ambitious PR that does a big test refactor with basically implementation progress towards the version skew testing. And he's got a really nice approach where we can set up version skew testing all within this repo, and we won't need to have like a big integration off together with Kubernetes. So the line item, the very last line item there on the screen you're showing on 4.15 version skew test coverage, there's like legitimate progress towards that.
Do we have a link or anything for that, or is there not a PR yet?
There is a PR. I can drop a link in the agenda notes.
Awesome, thank you.
So the other one actually, since David's here, I like throwing David under the bus. Sorry. The other one, the Hypershift project, finer grained controls of what goes through this in the egress config. That seems very much a Kubernetes kernel or a API machinery request.
That sounds fair to me. It looked ambitious to me, and potential. And even if it were done, I would have said separate item, unless someone else said, "Yeah, I'm super motivated to do that."
This is essentially where I'm landing as well, David. And when I say I want to throw you under the bus, I'm basically saying I think it would be good if someone from API Machinery just says exactly that on this thread.
All right. If we are in agreement, then yes. Mike, can I get you to send me a link to that so that I can close off that thread?
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't like the item. I think it belongs on an API Machinery specific issue. It needs to, well, I guess it is technically on API Machinery here, but I think it also just needs to be a separate issue.
I understand.
Is that the link you were looking for there, David?
Yes, I believe it is.
Cool.
I'm taking notes. I hope I have understood properly and added the notes correctly.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to pop it out one level there.
Well, and just to be clear, I mean, when I was putting a lot of this together, I was working closely with David, and the agreement we had was to not to build a final level grain of control while we were proving it out, but to do it with the existing controls. And so I'm not necessarily against finer grain controlled, but I think that is a a level that is a much deeper change in the API machinery code than what we originally made.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, is there anything further we want to discuss on that topic?
I think it is worth noting for those, I mean, it hasn't been a per se a network proxy item itself in a while, but I believe DIMS actually did a fairly significant switch over in the last few days to being, cloud provider extracted as the default. And I mean, when that's all trying to go do the cloud provider extraction effort. And in fact, this was the first success in cloud provider extraction. This is the piece that allowed us to remove SSH tunnels. So I just, a little bit of a pat on the back to everyone here. We got the ball rolling, and it is still rolling. And I am hoping that in another release or two, there will no longer be any first-class cloud providers in KK. So, sorry, I just,
No, definitely
Exactly.
worthwhile. Definitely worthwhile to mention that. And you're right. Like over the weekend, and starting last Friday, we were trying to get all the test scripts in place so that the external CCMs are used by default. I think there are still a couple corner cases that we're still trying to work out, but yeah, like I'm going to get back into updating the cap to get us to the next point. Because I think we're rapidly approaching the beta stage. So I share your optimism, Walter. I think in the next couple releases, yeah, we'll be able to get everything out of there. So it's very cool. And kudos to all of y'all for who've been in this for many more years than I have.
Yeah, Tim Hawkin told me to make this happen about 4 years ago, and I told him it would take 4 or 5 years, and he said it can't take that long. Come on, be serious. I'm like, no, it's going to take that long. I think I disappointed Tim when I told him it was going to take this long, but
good estimation on your part then. Okay, cool. Anything else we should bring up, or should we take 15 minutes of our day back here?
I have a tactical agenda. It's okay if people want to drop. I just wanted to talk about recent tags. So I think Imran has a PR in KK to put 0.1.4 there in master branch. Is that right? I saw some movement, but I know that those move kind of slowly. And then immediately following that nil deref panic PR that I authored that is merged fairly recently still needs a tag. So I think I will, once I will use the Elmico release and tagging strategy. So I see what I need to do, but I think it's worth backporting that nil deref fix to the supported range in KK according to the, tag scheme that we've got laid out. So I intend to do that in the near term.
I think that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And I agree with the backporting too.
So I agree with the back. Oh,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Joseph.
No,
I
go
agree
ahead.
with the backporting, but I have a quick question. So if memory serves, the existing 0.1 branch supports both 26 and 27?
I think that's where it landed. I don't know if you want to pull up your PR, Michael.
Yeah. 1 second here. Which PR was that one?
Your open PR around branch.
Oh,
branches.
Sorry.
The tag mapping to KK.
You're talking about like the old tag mapping.
Yeah. 0. Oh, I think Walter had it right. 126 and 127 use 0.1.
Yeah, I think 00 is for everything up to 125. I mean, we
Yeah,
should check that.
I did cross-reference this. It is right. What we said is right. So, Michael, I can drop a comment on your PR to remind you.
So yeah, I was gonna say, so does this need to be changed to 1.26 then? So that says 1.23 to 1.26
I think
inclusive?
it's to 125.
Okay.
And then
And is that 1.25 inclusive?
inclusive, yes.
Okay.
And then I think the 01 is 126 to 127 inclusive.
Cool.
Yeah, and then sort of maybe slightly a tangent. The Jordan Liggett PR that updates some gRPC versions to be compatible with KK at 128 has merged here. So our master branch is now effectively KK 128 and newer, just so that people are aware.
Gotcha.
So the one thing I was going to ask is when we cut new images off the backported fixes, did we want to go with the new naming scheme? And if we do, what do we actually want to use, since they actually have ranges rather than individual branch version compatible? Yeah.
Wouldn't images just be image names just have the exact version tags from this repo?
We could, but that means that, like, on the 0, from what we call the 01 line, if you wanted to have both a 26 and a 27 image, we would need to cut 2 images, or at least tag the image twice.
Oh,
And if that's what we're saying to that, I'm fine with that, but that's exactly the question I'm asking.
No, I don't think we do that today. I think the server and agent images don't try to pick up the KK version. They just keep the APIServer network proxy tag
Right.
version.
And this is the question I'm asking, was, do we go with the old scheme on the old releases, or are we going to pick up the new scheme on the old branches?
I mean,
when we cut new images.
yeah, like if we cut a new image and we're taking it back into the old days, then I mean, I don't, like, my personal feeling is like from here forward, we should probably start using the new naming sequence for everything because it's clearer. But I think I'll need to adjust the README then just to say, like, look, we have these historical versions and here's how you interpret them. Going forward, we're going to try to make this just clear using this guidance here. But I don't know. I don't know how confusing that'll be for people trying to pull like an old version or something.
I think it'll be fairly clear. It just gets a little weird with things like, I mean, if you do the new naming scheme on, like, let's go with even weird, just the client, right? So if you have the proxy server client code being in the Go mod for API server, is it, is it 27? And that's for both 26 and 27? I mean, I don't think that's terrible, but it will look a little bit strange. I mean, on 27, it'll look fine. On 26, you'll be like, and then if you read the README, it'll make sense. But
Yeah.
I guess we lost David.
Yeah. David said he had to drop,
That's fair.
or he was going to drop, I guess.
My suggestion would be to adopt a new approach for the new releases, and make it clear in the README. And if there is any issue raised in the community regarding the naming scheme for the old releases, then we sort of go back and try to address that. But if there is no issue raised, then sort of we move forward.
I mean, this is an issue for a year, and then we're done, right? Because then we'll be past the window. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so follow, like for backporting or creating backported versions, we use the guidance that we have in the README now, or that we're proposing in the README now. So we use the old scheming for things before 1.27 or whatever. Is that what I'm hearing, I guess?
I
That
think
sounds
that's,
the best to me.
I think we're saying let's go with that until we have a reason not to. That's
Okay.
how I interpreted Imran's statement.
Yeah, sounds good. I will make I will like add some sort of note to the README there, just kind of explaining, you know, what this is, I guess.
Walter, this is something that I have to practice, be more concise. And
Yeah, it's tough, you know.
Many years of practice.
All right, cool. Any other topics we should bring up today? Going in 3, 2, 1. All right. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Have a good one.